So, how do you get great results on your transformation journey? You don't get great results by focusing on getting results. You get great results by having a process, a weekly process that allows you to maintain consistency over time. Consistency over time is what leads to your success. You get results by having a process. Following that process leads to consistency. Consistency over time is what leads to results. You see how it goes? Hey, okay, Coach Dell here with another episode of Monday Motivation. That has been the topic this week. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of clients, and this is what we're talking about. I see that a lot of you don't have a weekly process. And that is what I always ask you about. What's your weekly process? How are you going to anchor those non-negotiables? Right? Practicing those non-negotiables is how you go about creating that future self, creating that identity. But you're not going to do that unless you have a process that works for you, that process should allow you to be consistent. Because if you can't be consistent with your meals, your water, your activity, your exercise, your sleep, how you deal with the stresses in your life, if you don't have a process, guys, here's what happens. You can wing it as long as things are good. As long as things are going well and you don't have any challenges, you're fine, things will work. But the minute life sucks, the minute the hurricane comes, the minute life throws a curveball at you, everything goes out the window. Everything goes out the window. Why? Because you don't have a process. Your process is something that you maintain no matter what. Right? And you get to the point where it becomes your lifestyle, so you know what you do. When you don't have a process and you're just making it up as you go along, the minute the storm comes, guess what? What you're doing doesn't work anymore. So now you're not consistent anymore. And then you start wondering, why am I not getting results? Well, you're not consistent. You don't have a process. All right? So that's the secret to your success. That's the real secret to your success. Because you see, everybody wants results. You want the scale to move. You want your clothes to fit. You want your energy to rise. You want that confidence. You want that gut health. You want that nerve health. You want to have great balance, and you want to build great cognitive ability. And these are all the things that you guys are looking for. But the truth is, results are just lagging indicators. They're the scoreboard. And the scoreboard doesn't change unless the daily plays do. That is the daily. What you do on the daily, that is what gets the scoreboard to change. That's what results are. And a lot of you are looking to change the results. You're looking to change that scoreboard without having a process that leads to that change. Right? When you focus on results, you're going to feel pressure. When you focus on process, you're going to feel power. You see the difference? When you focus on results, you're going to feel pressure because the scale is going to move. Your gut is going to feel, you're going to have some regularity. You're going to feel well one day. And so when you focus on results, guys, you're going to feel the pressure. You're going to get frustrated when things aren't happening. But when you focus on the process, and you can ask yourself, where am I in my process? That's what I always ask you. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you in your meal consistency? If you're at a 5, how can you possibly expect to see the scale change? If you had a 5 out of 10, right? If you're drinking 30, 40 ounces of water a day, how can you possibly expect to see results? Either in regularity or on the scale, right? You haven't sowed the seed yet, right? You're not doing what is required for results to happen. You haven't created the conditions necessary for for your body to change yet. Right? Here's the thing, guys. Results happen after consistency. And consistency only happens when your week has structure. You don't need more motivation. You need a better weekly process. You don't need more motivation. You need a better weekly process. And that is what a lot of you are lacking. You're lacking a weekly process to plan your meals ahead of time. So you're just doing things haphazardly and randomly. That's not going to get you there. Guys, you don't need to rise to the level of your goals. Right? You don't ever rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That's James Clear, Atomic Habit. You fall to the level of your systems. Your process is your system. It's what you do every single week to keep those non-negotiables alive. That is how you anchor those non-negotiables that create the identity that you're after. If you meal prep once in a while, that takes effort. If you meal prep every Sunday, you have your shopping day, you review your week, you're looking ahead, you're looking at what your week is going to be like. When is going to be crazy time, right? You message your coach regularly. That's your process. You're messaging your coach weekly. That's part of your process. That is part of your support. You message me, I'm going to ask you about all of this. You message your coach, we're going to ask you about what's your process? Is your process working? Are you sticking to your process? I don't care about your one meal. I want to know what your process is. The process is what builds momentum, confidence, and results. Your process, right? Because guys, when you repeat something on a schedule, remember, we talked about this last week, your brain starts to trust it. A habit is what you do repeatedly. That becomes a habit. Your brain, after a while, will remove that from the part of the brain responsible for conscious effort to the part of the brain that is responsible for automatic effort. So now your process becomes automatic. But you got to have a process for it to become automatic. You got to have a process for it to become your ritual, your daily ritual. That is what you need to focus on. So we call that predictable processing, right? Your mind feels safe when it knows what's coming next. And when your brain feels safe, it stops fighting you. That's where fat loss starts taking place. That's where your gut health starts taking place. That is where your hormones start to become more balanced. Because your brain feels safe. Remember last week we talked about your brain is the master of your hormones, and your hormones control everything in your body. So your brain is the master controller. So when you have a process and you start working on that predictable processing, that's when your habits stick. That's when discipline feels natural, because it becomes just what you do. That's when consistency becomes who you are, because of your process. So that is the focus. That is what you need to focus on, right? And your weekly process isn't something fancy. It's your foundation. We talked about this. It's the structure that guarantees success. It's how you stay grounded when life gets chaotic, folks. If you don't have a process, you don't have something to ground you when the storm hits. You just get washed away. But when you have a process, you are grounded, right? You plan your meals on the weekend. You have a shopping day. I just did my shopping for the week. I got everything I need for the week. That's my Sunday process. It's part of my process. That's my ritual. I've been doing that for 30 years. That is part of the process. You look ahead at your week and you see, okay, well, when are things going to be crazy? What do I need to plan for? How can I plan ahead? How can I have some stuff planned ahead? How can I cook maybe some things in advance? How can I make some of those starchy carbs, some sweet potatoes, some potatoes, a pot of rice, a pot of oatmeal? How can I make some things ahead of time? Make some of those proteins, some chicken breasts, some steak, whatever you want to make. How can I make some stuff ahead of time so that I am not trying to get it all in when I come home late from work? That is having a process, looking ahead at your week, right? Where am I going to schedule my workouts? Put them on my calendar. I don't wait till, Wednesday, oh my God, life is crazy. I don't have time. I'm just trying to fit in. I hear this a lot. I'm going to try and fit in a workout. No, you don't fit in a workout. You plan your workouts. Why? Because they're non-negotiables. You don't fit in non-negotiables. You plan them and you fit other things in around your non-negotiable. That is a working process. You put your non-negotiables on your schedule. You put your workouts on your schedule. It's an appointment that you don't cancel. Just like you don't cancel your doctor's appointment. It takes you months to get it. You don't cancel your doctor's appointments. You show up. You put it on your schedule. Well, that's what you do with your non-negotiables. You schedule them. You look at where in your week they are, or you schedule your week around your non-negotiables. My daily workout takes place first thing in the morning. It's non-negotiable, right? My Sunday morning tennis has been happening Sunday mornings for 30 years. Unless my partners can't make it, or I have to be on a volleyball court with my kids, I do it some other time. That's my process. But the important things, my weekly shopping is going to happen. It doesn't matter what's going on. I do it Sunday morning. If I need to be somewhere else with my kids, let's say on a volleyball court and at a tournament, I'll do it after, but it's going to happen. I might do it another day, but I'm going to do my weekly shopping. That is why it's called weekly shopping. I shop for the week. You share your meals or your progress with your coach. That's part of your process. Doesn't matter when you do it. Just do it. I just ask you, send me a message. You don't have to do anything fancy. Send me a message. Tell me what you're eating. Give me a day's worth of meals. If your coach asks you to share a meal plan, well, you share your meal plan. Right? That is part of your process. You attend a group call. I have a lot of clients who have, Monday or Tuesday or Thursday or Friday. They have their days. Some of you don't ever attend any calls because you don't like group things. Well, guess what you're missing out on? You're missing out on all the education. You're missing out on a time to have a one-on-one conversation with your coach to talk about your process, how to develop a better process. You see what you're missing out on? You see why my very best clients who are getting great results? Guess what? They're all messaging me every week, several times a week. They're all on my group calls almost every single week. I'm hearing from them. That's the process of getting great results. So if you don't have a process, you're just out there in the world doing your thing, right? That's not going to get you results. You got to have a process. That is what gets you results, guys. Results come from consistency. Consistency comes from having a process that allows you to be consistent. So I want you to really understand that. That is the most important thing. Your process is your proof. Proof that you're showing up, building consistency, and embodying that future self. You don't have a process, you don't have consistency. You're not embodying that future self. You're not practicing the habits of your future self. Because your future self is about process. And guys, that process is what's going to build your confidence. When you follow your process, something powerful happens. Your brain releases dopamine, not when you reach your goal, but when you see yourself making progress. That is the important thing. And each time you complete a process task, you give your brain evidence that says, I keep my promises. I can trust myself. And that's how confidence is built, not through success, but through self-trust. So the next time you feel discouraged because the scale hasn't moved or you're not regular, you're not getting the results you want, ask yourself this. Am I following my process this week? How is my process? On a scale of 1 to 10, where am I with my process? Do I even have a process? That is the most important thing. So here's the 3 process power principles I want you to adopt. Now let's break it down. Number 1, you got to have structure. Your week's got to have structure. Your week needs a blueprint. What is that week going to look like? Don't just, hope to stay on track. Design it. What does your week look like? Plan your workouts, prep your food, set your check-in times. Structure creates freedom to create, freedom to be creative. You got to have structure. That is part of the process. And that is what many of you lack. You tell me, oh, I'm bad at planning. Well, if you're bad at planning, you're bad at having, you don't have a process. If you don't have a process, you won't be consistent. If you're not consistent, you won't see the results you're looking for. You're bad at planning, yet you want to see results. You see how the two don't go hand in hand? So you got to have some structure to your week. You got to measure what you can control, right? You can't control the scale, but you can control your consistency. So track your habits, your water, your meals, your steps, your sleep, your mindset. These are the things you focus on. These are the things you want to track. You want to track how you're doing with your process. Celebrate process wins, not the outcome. Don't look at the scale. Measure what you can control. You can control whether or not you do your shopping for the week. You can control whether or not Sunday you take some time and you prep some things for the week. You can control if during the week you look ahead and plan your tomorrow today. You're not just waiting for Tuesday to show up, but Monday you're looking at what Tuesday's going to look like. You already have everything. But how am I going to be successful? Because Tuesday's going to be a crazy day. I'm going to be coming home late. I have to leave early. Well, if you have to leave early, you got to plan for that. I leave at 5 o'clock sometime to get somewhere. I plan ahead the night before. If I need to bring something with me, I need to get my kids in a volleyball court at 7 a.m. We need to leave home by 6 a.m. Guess what? I'm going to have my food for the day with me. I don't rely on having things there. I plan that ahead of time. I don't wait until 6 o'clock Sunday morning and say, oh my God, I don't have anything. No, that's all planned ahead of time. What I'm going to do. So I have it. Sometimes it's already prepared, so all I have to do is grab it and go. That is your process. So guys, the third step is, number 1, you got to have structure. Measure what you can control. Number 3, reflect and reset every week. You got to reflect on your process. Progress is built on reflection. Every Sunday or Monday, ask yourself, what went well? What went well last week? What challenges did I have last week? What's my focus for this week? What's my focus for this week? This reflection rewires your brain to love progress instead of perfection. We're after progress. The only way you make progress is through reflection. What went well? What challenges did I have? What's my focus for this week? Every single week, every single Sunday, I send you, my clients, a graphic in the app. I said, what's your focus for the week? You're going to plan your meals. You're going to focus on your water. You're going to focus on your activity. You're going to focus on your steps. You're going to focus on your exercise. What is your focus for the week? You're going to focus on messaging your coach. What is your focus for the week? Each week needs to have a focus, something that anchors you. That is what you're focusing on for the week. You got to have a mindset anchor. Here's your mindset anchor for this week. When I focus on my process, results will take care of themselves. When I focus on my process, results will take care of themselves. Because here's the thing, guys. If you nail your week, if you hit your non-negotiables, track your process, and stay accountable, then your success isn't a matter of if. Your success is a matter of when. When you plan your week, you hit your non-negotiables each week, you're tracking your process, you're staying accountable to your coach, your success is not a matter of if. Your success is a matter of when. I guarantee it. Like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what work, guys. The things I'm asking you to do because every single one of my successful clients are doing them. You see the difference? Every single client I have who have lost 50 to over 100 pounds in the past year are doing all of these things I'm asking you to do. So if you want to get results, the clients who are experiencing great gut health, well, yes, they have a process. They are reaching out to their coach. They are planning just like everybody else who's on a weight loss plan. So it doesn't matter what plan you're on. This isn't about weight loss. This is about your transformation and how to get results. So here's a challenge for your week, to master your week. I want you to write down 3 non-negotiables. Write down 3 non-negotiables. What are the 3 non-negotiable habits around your meals, your water, your activity, your exercise, your sleep? What are 3 non-negotiables you're going to focus on this week? I want you to create your weekly process around them. They're non-negotiable. Create your weekly process. How are you going to make them happen no matter what? That's why they're non-negotiable. You're doing them no matter what. How are you going to make them happen no matter what happens? Doesn't matter how chaotic, crazy your life gets. Doesn't matter if you travel. It doesn't matter. On my phone calls, I ask you, what is stopping you from planning your meals ahead? And I get all these, well, I'm busy here. I'm doing Doesn't matter. None of that matters. In other words, nothing is stopping you. All you have to do is plan it and do it. Your circumstances do not dictate your choices. Because you don't get to control your circumstances, you control your choices. So whether you plan or not, that is up to you. Because you don't have a process. Planning is your process. So your circumstances don't dictate your choices. Because that is why we plan our tomorrow today, looking ahead to see when life is going to get crazy. And when you show up with a plan, you will always be more successful. So write down 3 non-negotiables. Create your weekly process around them. Check in midweek for course correction. Sometimes you have to course correct. You have to change a bit. You got to have some flexibility. And then review on Sunday. How did I do? What went well? What challenges did I have? Adjust. And do it again. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. You need to show up for your process, and your process will show up for you. Your process will lead to results. You don't get to focus on results, guys. So let me remind you, you don't get results by wishing. You get results by working your process. Every single week, you work your process. So stop trying to predict your outcome. Start mastering your input. Start mastering your process, because when you commit to the process, you're no longer hoping for transformation. You're creating it. 1 week, 1 habit, 1 non-negotiable at a time. That is how you create transformation. So this week, stop chasing results. Stop looking at the scale. Stop thinking about what's not happening. Stop thinking about the fact that you're not as regular as you want to be. Stop thinking about that your nerve health is not better right now. What is your process? I want you to chase consistency, chase execution, chase progress. The results, they'll have no choice but to follow. That is how you make your transformation inevitable. Inevitable. I am inevitable. Your results will become inevitable. It's your week to win the process, guys, and own your transformation. When you focus on your process will lead to consistency. Consistency will lead to the results you're looking for. So your process will, in short, make your results inevitable. That is what you need to focus on. I hope this has been helpful.